Hey everybody, Spoiler Day 10, let's get into it. So today Jagex announced that the new league will have an amped up endgame. I'll go over what that means in a second. There were some details released on Discord that you may have missed, so I'm going to cover those. I'm going to give you my thoughts and my opinions about this change of the endgame and how it really is going to affect my league experience as well as potentially yours. If you've been following along with me and you know that I'm a relatively new player who's using the leagues as kind of training wheels to learn the endgame, I'll kind of explain how this impacts my plan as well. And then I have an idea about how this could potentially impact the endgame of OSRS in the main game. This is just a thought, just a theory that I had that would be kind of nice. I'll share that at the end, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so if you watch the trailer at all, you know that there's going to be boosted drop rates for these raids. For those of you who don't know what raids are the end game of OSRS content. You fight multiple bosses in succession, and once you complete the raid, you will get a really rare, powerful item. Some of them drop sights, some of them drop T-bows, some of them drop fangs or the shadow. These are some of the top tier items that are literally the max, most powerful items in the game. And you're going to be wanting to do these if you are going for those top tier items. So these raids are in the respective regions that are listed here: Current, Mauritania, Desert, and Mauritania. Phosani's Nightmare is just another end-game boss. It's not an official raid, but it is going to be giving you a lot of good gear. I believe Inquisitor and everything else drops from there. So if you know that the league already has a 15x or 5x multiplier, the raids are going to have a 15x multiplier in addition to the hard mode. So this is going to just give you that scythe or that T-bow that you're looking for much sooner with much greater accuracy. Let's go over the details that were released on Discord, and that'll kind of explain what's happening to these raids. So if you saw the trailer talked about 25% stats and 50% more HP. This is just to kind of balance out how much power that you have in leagues with all the relics, and that to me makes sense. Most of the time, in leagues, people are just talking about how fast they're killing the bosses and completing the raids, and to be honest, I like that experience. I want to see how quickly you can do something, what janky mechanics allow you to one-shot or skip phases. That's really, I think, the power level of leagues, but I understand that Jagex wants us to also have better drop rates and get those unique items, because even in leagues sometimes it can be too rare to get the top 10 items, but at the same time they also wanted to make it a little bit challenging so people aren't skipping phases and one-shotting bosses at the same time. So that's the only difference here, is that there is no mechanical change. It's mostly just a increased HP for your higher DPS from the relics that you're going to have. Two things to clarify is Tombs of Amascut and Theater of Blood, they do not drop multiple purples. If you've seen the animation of players walking into the reward room, you see that only one chest can have a unique and one player can get a unique. So just keep that in mind when you're doing raids. It's actually probably less impactful for you to go do a raid with 6 people in these. It's probably better just to do raids of maybe 3 or 2 or even go solo. Right? Summon a Guardian to help you out. Tombs of Amascut is a little bit different than the other raids because you can configure your configurations. There's an animation in the trailer that you'll see in the next slide that goes up to 1,000, so you can pretty much increase the difficulty, and when you get up to 400 or higher, that's declared as the hard mode, so that's when these increased stats are going to go into play into that raid, and therefore you'll also get the 15x multiplier for those. And then the harder mode for Chambers of Zarek and Theater of Blood are just going to replace the existing hard modes. So just keep that in mind. That's some nice clarifications that they have. So pretty much you're just going to have to do some more phases, probably equivalent to the number of phases and everything that you do in the normal game, just because even though you have more DPS, the fight will take just a little bit longer. Okay, so now how does this impact my plan? So if you know that my regions are Desert, Asgarnia, and Turanwin, this is only going to affect my Tombs of Amascut play. And what's cool about Tombs of Amascut is I can configure that difficulty, right? So it's going to go all the way up to 1,000, and I'm a beginner, and my goal is to actually learn and get better at Tombs of Amascut, doing it with my friends. So sure, if I get that max gear and I get really good at Tombs of Amascut and I understand all the boss mechanics and phases, we'll definitely push ourselves and go for those high-end raids. But to be honest, this isn't really that exciting for me, and this really isn't for the players who are like me, who are just learning and getting into the game, or maybe halfway through the game when we're finally getting to the end game exposure. I've done a few Tombs of Amaskets in the main game with my friends, but we're doing that really normal entry mode kind of runs with some really basic gear. We just got our first pieces of Bandos and some Zamorak and Hastas, so we're finally getting into the place where we can kind of get into the more advanced things. But we are still, at least me, I'm still quite a bit of beginner at mechanics, and I don't know all the boss fights. So again, this isn't really content that's geared towards me or players like myself. So if you're one of me, you can be a little bit excited about this, but it's mostly for maybe some of your friends or some of those top tier streamers and content creators who are pushing the limits. It's going to be amazing to watch Wook solo every single one of the raids. I'm looking forward to that, and that's definitely something that'll be exciting. Maybe he'll come up with some weird combos with the different relics and still be able to just one-shot bosses. Who knows? That'll be very exciting. Cool. So I actually had an idea when I was thinking about this, about how, the raid's relics actually impact the game. So today boosts, for example, if you're smelling salts in Tombs of Amasket, or any of your, super strength pot, super defense pot potions, they're pretty much one-dimensional. In my opinion, they kind of affect just one stat. So actually, I had a curious idea that potentially raids in the future, what if they could give you some of the impacts and the benefits that the League relics had, and then that allows you to do more difficult raid content. So for example, let's say you had a crazy challenge mode in some new raid that came out, and in that the only way to complete it was to get a 5-tick weapon down to a 2-tick weapon. Maybe you complete one boss and that unlocks you to get a special smelling salt that changes your attack speed from a 5-tick to a 2-tick, and that's the only way you're going to be able to complete this insanely hard challenge mode. But what that does is it brings multi-dimensional power to endgame content in League in OSRS. Right? Now, I don't think this is going to be a likely thing, just because there's a lot of balancing that's done around it. But there might be some ways that Jagex can learn from some of the powerful relics in the game, and then twist that into a way that it could actually impact the end game. It's just an idea and a thought. I thought I'd kind of expand on the kind of small teaser update. It's not really going to be impactful for me or many of you, but that said, I thought this would be a cool way to kind of change up the mid and late game in the real game. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like these daily updates, definitely subscribe, and that way you'll get all my notifications for when the next update comes out. If you like this video and you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts or feedback below, definitely leave a comment below. Again, I'll be streaming live, hopefully, for the first 2 days for leagues. So definitely drop a follow on Twitch so you know when I'm live. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. Bye.